Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Just give me a second. Just doing some background work here. And okay, so hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Drizzle ORM plus SingleStore, scaling simple APIs to millions of records. So thanks for joining this webinar live with us today. And we have a very senior product manager here with us. His name is Chetan, and he's an expert on the topic and was directly responsible for the connector with Drizzle ORM. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Chetan, but has been directly working with the team. And so he's an expert at the topic. And if there's any questions, we have a very qualified panel here with us live today that's going to answer any questions that you might have. And if there's any feedback regarding today's session, our DMs are always open on LinkedIn. And as for me, I'm Yukti. I handle SingleStore's webinars end to end. So if there's any suggestions on topics or any projects that you're working on, or maybe you're utilizing SingleStore for, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, and you can always email me at ydivedi@singlestore.com. I'll drop in you know like everything in the chat. So yeah, so Chetan, can we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
We have a few housekeeping rules. So currently you are in a listen only mode, and you can utilize the Q&A button, which is present at the bottom of your console, to communicate with the speakers or maybe add any comments that you might have. And uh, we will be recording the session, so if you miss something, it's totally all right. We understand your time is valuable, so we will be sending out a recording to your registered email, and we will be putting it out on our YouTube as well. So, yeah, if there's anything else, feel free to use that Q&A button, and we will, towards the end of the session, we will also have like a dedicated session for your questions to address anything that you might have. And we make sure here at SingleStore to answer all the questions live. So feel free to drop in, if there's anything, no matter what it is, even if it's unrelated, we love to have a discussion. So yeah, and for the speaker today, we have Chetan, as I just said that he's a senior product manager here at SingleStore, and he has directly been responsible for our relationship with Drizzle. So he is going to be like your point of contact if this particular use case is of interest to you. So yeah, we also have Michelle and Pablo who are basically from the engineering team here at SingleStore and will be are also experts at the topic. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and Chetan, please take it away from me. And yeah, thanks for putting this content together.
Yeah, thanks, Yukti, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining. And thanks, Michelle and Pablo, as well, to take time to come on a webinar to address any queries that the audience might have. Okay, about the agenda for today's call, we'll talk about the day two problem, which most of us have while building applications. Then we'll talk about something about single store. We'll talk about Drizzle, and then we'll talk about the power couple that Drizzle and single store forms, right? And then probably we'll do a short demo and take any questions that you might have, right? Uh, let's talk about the day two problem. We all have been there, haven't we? Right? You you must be building, let's say, a logging API or a user tracking system. It works it works great. It works on my machine. It works with 100 records. It works with 1,000 records. But let's say 6 months down the line or 9 months down the line, you see there are millions of record coming in. Let's say there's a Black Friday sale or some holiday season in the area, right? So in that case, you will have a lot of data coming in, and by that time, your system starts to slow down. Your dashboard doesn't work, or if there's a API that you have, right, it starts dying, right? It starts to choke, and because of this, your revenue gets impacted, and the user experience suffers, right? And this happens because you're using traditional ORMs, which are a little too heavy when using with any RDBMS systems, right? And that is where I think we can provide a better solution for you, right? So that is where we talk about the hyperscale stack, right? I'll touch a lot on what Drizzle is, what SingleStore is when we go through the slides and the webinar, right? So we are fixing two tools, right? That are redefining performance, right? One is the developer experience with Drizzle ORM, and then the performance to execute your query using SingleStore's highly performant real-time uh, querying system, right? So this combination allows you to, let's say, code literally in standard TypeScript, right? And while using single stores, like millions of record at without breaking a sweat, right? So that's a combination that we are talking about today, right? Drizzle and single store. Now, like those of you who are new to the like platform, or those of you who don't know what SingleStore is, right? So we are like SingleStore was born in 2011 as MemSQL. We started as a transactional database. Then, yeah, like slowly and steadily, we layered into analytics, search, and AI capabilities. Then around like 2020, 2020, we rebranded ourselves as single store because we felt that like at that point we were the best database for many workloads and not just in memory. So we didn't want to restrict ourselves as an in-memory database only. So we have changed our name to, or rebranded ourselves to single store, right? And over time, our like customers have expanded. We have more than 500 customers now. Our ARR is more than 120 million. And like we have big players, like including Fortune 50 companies and high growth disruptors like, let's say, Apple, Nvidia, or Disney, Cisco. So they have all chosen single store to solve their toughest data challenges, right? Why? Because our tech works, right? We will get you over, like, if you have a real-time ingestion system, and at the same time, if you want to query the data, like single store pretty much solves it for you. Right? So what is single store, right? So single store is the most performant data platform for apps analytics at scale. So what do we mean by that? Right? Whether you are running a high performance transactional apps, or real-time analytics, or AI workload, or all of the above, right? Single store have got you covered, right? So if we are to break down this particular sentence of what single store is, we'll say, let's say, we are the best platform for building next generation of AI application. We have integrated Python support. We have GPUs. You can use single store's native vector search. And there are many more features that you can use to build your application, right? Most of the customers that single store have are developers, right? They are creating their own solution and using single store as a platform to power their queries, right? Then when we talk about analytics, right, we can help you beat your analytical SLAs, right? Even if you need a real-time ingest, and at the same time you at high concurrency on JSON data, right? If you need an application like performance for your data warehouse, we can do it for you. And then we can power apps at massive scale. Even if you need analytics or search or other capabilities that make the the workload challenging. Yeah, single store can do it all in a single system, right? We are the HTAP database where all your like analytical as well as transactional workload can be executed on single store. So we are all in one solution for your data pipelines. So we are a perfect RAG database to interact with your LLMs, perform semantic analysis on your workflows, or if you have any application that you want to build on top of this, right? So bringing data into single store is quite easy, right? You don't need a big ETL tool to get your data into single store, right? We have single store native pipelines, which is a no ETL solution. If you want to bring in data from Kafka, from cloud storage, from HDFS, from Mongo, right? You can use SingleStore's pipelines, which can ingest millions of record per second. And when you ingest those records, you have the capacity to query those same records at millisecond latency, right? You don't have to wait for your execution to complete before querying the data, right? Now, and we do support JSON, Avro, Parquet, and recently we have ventured into Iceberg support as well, right? And so there's a lot on like how, and recently SingleStore Helios platform, the SaaS offering, we have done like Flow, our new tool that we have acquired last year. It is available in Helios to bring in data from relational databases, one-time load as well as the CDC, right? So ingestion is something which is very simple when it comes to SingleStore. So what we are is a HTAP database to solve all of your analytical needs or transactional needs. Then if like we have talked about SingleStore pretty much like all of this time. Now let's talk about Drizzle, right? Why I chose Drizzle for today's webinar or why you should choose it, right? When we talk about scaling, we often focus on database, right? But I think we need to talk about ORMs as well. Like traditional ORMs are they are great, but they often add too much magic, that complex layers that slows down the execution and generate inefficient SQL, which I think needs to be lighter, right? So that's where a Drizzle comes in. So Drizzle is not an active record ORM. It's a SQL query builder, right? So its philosophy is simple. You write TypeScript, it generates clean and minimal SQL. This means it has virtually zero overhead, right? So when you pair zero overhead with SingleStore's raw performance engine, there's nothing in your application that is slowing you down, right? So that's why like we say you can scale millions of APIs at like within a click, right? So if you like talk about the why, right? Why use Drizzle? It's like the TypeScript native function, right? So Drizzle, let's say it's TypeScript first, right? You define your schema entirely in TypeScript, and then this the definition that you have done is used for your queries. Now, if you rename a column in your code or try to insert a string into a number field, right? What it does it like TypeScript shouts at you at compile time and not when you execute your code. So that saves your like execution time or resources, right? So Drizzle has like the best thing that I personally liked about Drizzle is it does not have any external dependency, right? And when like these days when we talk about serverless or edge functions, right? It needs to be a lower footprint. Your dependency footprint should be lower, right? And that's where Drizzle is the champion, right? It boosts instantly, then meaning your cold start are like not needed at all, right? Then it's also built a like dedicated dialect for SingleStore. Let's say feature like a SingleStore table, right? It's natively available in Drizzle. So if I say like Drizzle is a perfect coding partner for SingleStore. So it gives you maximum type safety and so a maximum SQL efficiency, right? You get to write a simple, clean code that just happens to like scale to millions of records, right? So that is when I've like talked about the power couple, right? So modern power couple is a very lightweight ORM and a very performant database. As I've mentioned earlier, right? Single stores customers are mostly developers who are building their application on top of single store, right? And we, as a single store, we make sure that we cater to all our developer needs, right? be it other traditional ORMs, right? EF Core or Django, right? We have support for that. We typically support all the integration with all the programming languages you have. If you say if you are using Go, if you are using .NET, if you are using C, C++, Python, or any programming language out there. So as we are MySQL compatible, you can use the MySQL drivers, or we have SingleStore drivers for that as well, right? So when we use like Drizzle with SingleStore, it like unlike as I've mentioned earlier, it does not have a heavy footprint, and then you can iterate your features faster, right? Without having to write a complex config files for this, right? So this is where you can take Drizzle. Then we talk about the infrastructure velocity, right? SingleStore ensures that your database never becomes a bottleneck in your complete application stack, right? You can rest assured that all your queries, whatever the scale that you're running it at, will run in like millisecond latency, right? So that's why, like, when you combine these two, you can build a simple APIs in TypeScript that just scales, right? And when you migrate in Drizzle as well, you don't have to rewrite your queries, right? Your Drizzle code, it just works at scale. So what typically happens is whenever you use any traditional ORM, or if you are building an application, the queries that you write are not built by the ORM itself, right? So here, your Drizzle code takes care of everything. So you don't have to rewrite anything, right? If I go even deeper into this, right? So this slide, it talks about why Drizzle and like SingleStore are the ultimate power couple, right? It's combination of developer safety on the left hand and the raw performance of SingleStore on the right, right? You need both to truly scale. Let's start with Drizzle. Let's say Drizzle ensures that you have predictable type-safe queries. You are writing TypeScript and you know exactly the SQL that's going to be generated, right? This means no more mysterious runtime bugs because of bad input or misspelled column, right? We can write clean SQL aggregations using Drizzle's helpers, which gives you seamless analytics interface without losing control that raw SQL provides, right? So now if we talk about the engine, right? SingleStore takes that clean SQL, it executes it with unmatched speed because it's both distributed and parallel execution model, right? The query doesn't run on one core, right? It runs across every node in your cluster simultaneously. And then this uses like customized columnar technology that is optimized for heavy analytical workloads, right? The result, you get subsequent latency even when you are querying billions of rows, right? So with this pairing, like what this pairing gives you is a simple equation. We get to use a common language, a standard SQL, but we execute it on an accelerated engine. You don't have to learn a new query language, right, for your data warehouse or write like code to hit caching layer, right? The simplest and most standard SQL queries written in Drizzle become instantaneously fast on massive data set because SingleStore is doing the heavy lifting underneath, right? This is nothing but the developer's dream. Like the safety and elegance of a front-end tool meets the raw and industrial power of SingleStore, right? Efficient queries, massive data set, and there's no compromise, right? So that's like the simplest architecture that you can have. So earlier, what used to happen is you have one database which is doing transactional workload, one database doing analytical workload, and then there are more number of silos that are created to cater to different works use cases, right? You don't need that, right? SingleStore can run all your like workload in a single thing, a single place. then you don't need an ETL because SingleStore has pipelines. So we don't even need that. You can just bring in your data and start working with it, right? As you are combining multiple workloads into a single database, it's cost effective as well, right? And then you can manage, like with Drizzle, you can manage only one schema, right? And then it syncs perfectly with the database, right? So this is more about why SingleStore, why Drizzle, how it works perfectly together, right? And like now, if what I've tried to do over here is I've built a small application just to like show you guys um, how easy it is to define a schema in Drizzle, how easy it is to like query it and like scale it, right? You 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 don't have to rewrite anything. Like the first slide that we talked about, it was about the day two problem, right? And how do we solve that? As like we are like with Drizzle and SingleStore, you don't have to do anything to solve it. If you use these two products together, either you are running your workload with 100 records in a database or million or billion records in a database, right? See, the combination takes care of everything, right? So, is there like any questions on the stack or on the slides that we have talked about before moving into the demo?
Folks, you can use the Q&A button right now if there's any questions that you might have. And if you don't, that's okay too. We can take any questions towards the end of the session. So, Chetan, I don't see any questions. Just a reminder for everyone though, like Chetan, can you please allow me like just 10 seconds? We are giving away $600 worth of free credits. So, like I'll be putting in the link. In the chat. So, like, you can try SingleStore for free. And if you register right now, it does not require any credit card or something. It's just a free registration. You can try out, and as Chetan will give the demo, you can follow along in real time. So, yeah, like just letting you all know and keep an eye out at the chat button because I'll be putting the resources there. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Yukti. Okay, I'll share my screen now. Uh, I hope it is visible. Okay, so what do we need to do when we are using Drizzle with SingleStore, right? You just have to define like a simple schema for every table that you have. What columns do you, what are the columns, the type of your column, right? And whether it's a primary key or not, whether do you want to index it or not, right? All the things are like you can define it in a schema here, right? And then once you define a schema, you just push it, right? You like do drizzle git push, and it just nothing but goes to the SingleStore database that you have defined and just copies the schema. So right now I'll just like abort this because I have a database. I've already created this and I've added 3.2 million records into this, right? Then what you can do is, let's say I have created this seeding program, which is just taking your database connections and then creating, let's say, a batch of 10,000 records. I'll just do 10 for now to save time. And yeah, that's it. It just will just add some records. So you just like run npnx, tsx, and seed. So what this is doing is like as I've mentioned earlier, so in this demo, I'm just writing it using seed, but you can use SingleStore's Kafka pipelines. If you have some Kafka setup somewhere, if you have S3 buckets, you can use the pipelines to bring that data into SingleStore and start using this, right? Now that I have like added my seed records over here, so how easy it is to write a type safe query, right? what I'm doing is I'm just using SingleStore's ORM support, like a dialect over here, right? And then let's say if I want to run a health check query about how many number of records are there, right? So if I go here, I'm just asking count. You don't have to write select star from this is table, select count star from this is table. What you have to do is just okay count, and then maybe a maximum timestamp. I'm just selecting max at a created timestamp, and that's it. At the same time, if let's say I want to add or a group by clause, right? Or an order by clause, you can just write it and it's taken care of for you. Similarly, you can add multiple analytical queries in here to like cater to your use case, and that's it, right? If I just go here, if I run my analytical queries, uh, so it will just give me. So if you see, I have earlier we have seen that it has some more than 3 million records, and it is giving me a query response on a group by clause and an order by clause in just 700 milliseconds, right? So here the first health check took a little more time, and then eventually the time came down to like 300 milliseconds and 700 milliseconds. So this is the combination that we are talking about, where you can like scale bigger. And at the same time, if you've, let's say, if you've identified that, okay, there's some query tuning that you need to do, or maybe there's some schema that you need to modify, right? What you can do is you can add, let's say, an index here, right? So I have an index created on this. So instead of on user type, I let's say create an index on this, right? On an event type. And I rename it to event type index, right? I save it. Now, what you can do is you can just generate queries which you can use to uh, like execute on a database, right? Here it generated a query for you where it's saying is you need to drop your index that you have created earlier, and then you create a new index on your event type column, right? So you can do like Drizzle understands your schema, what is there in the database right now, and whatever changes that you are making to the columns, to the table names, and then it understands that and it combines that with the code, right? So if you, let's say, write a query, which let's say if I like by mistake, I add one over here. So it quickly gives an error while before even executing the code, saying that this particular column does not exist in the table, right? So this is the type safe nature of Drizzle that you can use with SingleStore, right? Even if you are, let's say, you're running a server. So what I have done is I have created an Express server which is running, right? And I can just go here and execute a query to get top events, and you can see the response to your APIs are like in milliseconds, right? So irrespective of whether I increase the number of records in my source database, let's say if I go back here and if I add, let's say, more 1 million records, SingleStore, I'm sorry, I'll just, I've not allocated bigger memory to this. So it will take some time. But yeah, as I was saying, irrespective of how many number of records you have in your SingleStore database, it will give you the millisecond query response, right? And yeah, you can leverage this stack together to solve your performance problem. Yeah, that's all I had for this webinar today. So yeah, it's a quick webinar of 30 minutes. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take it.
All right, so seems like the demo is at an end. And folks, if there's any questions that you might have, please feel free to add them. And if there's not, you can always follow up with us on email as well. And we're happy to answer your questions if there's any queries. You can also reach out to us on the intercom, and like our team is always there, or there's a lot of ways to reach out to us. You can also email us at team@singlestore.com and we will assist you. So, Chetan, I think we're like, because like the demo was very self-explanatory, it was so well made. I think like there's not a lot of questions that are popping up. So, yeah, we can conclude this webinar. And for everyone that joined, we will be sending out a recording. So, if you joined late, don't worry, you'll have all the resources in your inbox and we will follow up with you. So yeah. Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Thanks everyone. Yeah. Do hit me up on
Okay.
LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Chetan's LinkedIn is always open. You can always message him if there's any feedback, if you're using the product. We are very happy to, talk to you guys. So yeah, keep an eye out for an email, and we have amazing webinars coming up. We have a webinar on agentic AI and like how SingleStore enables that, like on 17th. So stay tuned for that. If you like today's session, we are very we'll be very happy to host you on the next session as well. So keep an eye out for on our resources page, and you can check out the future sessions there. So yeah, like that's it from me and from the team. So thanks everyone for joining. Your time is really precious for us. And thanks Chetan, Mitchell, and Pablo for joining. And yeah, we hope to bring more webinars for everyone. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.